Hey everyone, ready for another deep dive. Today we're tackling a pretty fascinating figure, Alfred North Whitehead.
Oh, yeah. He's definitely someone who makes you rethink, well, a lot of things.
I know, right? I mean, I did some reading beforehand, and wow, this guy was all over the place. In a good way. Math, philosophy, physics.
You said it. Not just dabbling either. He made huge contributions to each.
It's like he saw the connections between these fields that most people miss.
Absolutely. I think one of the coolest things about Whitehead is how he saw patterns everywhere. It really started with his work in universal algebra.
I was going to ask about that. Sounds intimidating.
Kinda, but it's basically about patterns, not just with numbers, but ideas too.
So, like a blueprint for how thoughts connect, that's pretty wild.
It is, and it led him to logic, where he teamed up with Bertrand Russell.
Oh yeah, the Principia Mathematica, that was their big project, right?
Exactly. They tried to rebuild all of math using only logic. Super ambitious.
I bet they had some intense debates. But what always gets me is how Whitehead saw logic as more than just, rules.
Totally. For Russell, it was about rigorous proof, but Whitehead, he saw it as a tool for intuition, tapping into something deeper.
Like a way to make those aha moments happen more often.
Exactly. And that comes out in how he thought about math itself. He had this idea of propositional functions.
Wait, break that down for me a bit. What were those again?
Imagine little logical machines, each spitting out truth statements. It's a cool way to visualize how math works.
Mind blown. And then he took all this, the logic, the math, and jumped right into physics.
He wasn't afraid to challenge anyone, even Einstein. He admired relativity, don't get me wrong.
But there's always a but with Whitehead, huh?
Well, he thought it lacked coherence with basic intuitions about space and time, like it didn't quite fit with how we experience the world.
So did he just ignore Einstein, or?
Oh no, he developed his own theories of gravitation, even a quantum theory.
Whoa, hold on. So we've got Einstein over here with relativity, and Whitehead's off doing his own thing. That's got to be a story.
It is, they both explained gravity, but in totally different ways. It's almost like different maps leading to the same place.
Makes you wonder, are there multiple ways to understand the universe? Could they both be right?
It's a fascinating question, and for a while you couldn't even tell their theories apart experimentally.
So two totally different starting points, same results? That's wild.
It shows science isn't always about one right answer. It's about perspective. And Whitehead's perspective takes us beyond physics into experience itself.
We're getting into process philosophy now, aren't we? I read a bit about that. Sounds intense.
It is, but also really cool. The basic idea is that everything's always changing, always becoming, not just living things, the whole universe.
Okay, gotta admit, I'm having trouble picturing that. Like, is my coffee cup becoming something right now?
In a way, yeah. Whitehead would say it's part of this ongoing flow of energy and information.
So instead of things, we have processes. Is that the gist?
You got it. And it's through these actual occasions, these little bursts of experience, that everything unfolds.
Actual occasions. Gotta love philosophical terms, right?
They're catchy and they're happening everywhere, all the time. It's like the universe is a giant network of experiences constantly interacting.
Wow. Okay. That's a lot to take in. We've gone from algebra to Einstein to the universe being a giant network of experiences.
You're catching on quickly, and this is just the beginning. Whitehead's journey takes us through education, religion, and even ethics.
Man, I can't wait to dive into those. We're just getting warmed up, folks. Stick around. Okay, so we left off with this idea of the universe as like a giant web of experiences. But my brain's still trying to catch up. If everything is becoming, what about things that seem, well, pretty static, like a rock?
Right, it's tough to wrap your head around at first. But remember, for Whitehead, experience isn't just about consciousness like we humans have.
So it's not like the rock is, thinking deep thoughts.
Nope, it's more about how everything responds to the world around it. Even a rock interacts with its environment, right? It responds to heat, pressure, gravity.
Okay, so it's not thinking, but it's still part of that flow of energy and information, participating in the universe, in a way.
That's it. It's not separate. It's connected. And that connection is what makes the universe so dynamic. Not a machine, more like a living organism, always changing.
Wow, okay, I'm kind of starting to see it now. And this ties back to his math and logic, right? Those fields seem so timeless, so absolute.
But Whitehead's saying even those truths are embedded in a universe that's in constant flux.
So logic and math aren't just rigid structures, they're tools to understand these patterns, these processes that are always changing.
You got it. And once you start seeing the world through that lens, it has implications for everything, even something like education.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask about that. His ideas on education were pretty radical, weren't they?
Definitely different from the traditional classroom setup. For Whitehead, it wasn't about stuffing kids with facts. It was about fostering growth, helping them become well-rounded individuals.
So more about the process of learning than the specific content.
Exactly. He thought real learning happened through discovery, through asking questions, making connections. He even had this cool term for it, the rhythm of learning, moving from romance to precision to generalization.
Rhythm of learning. I love that. It makes it sound so much more alive.
Right. And this rhythm wasn't just for academic stuff. He thought it applied to everything, art, music, even social interaction.
So education is about cultivating that lifelong curiosity, that thirst for knowledge.
Absolutely. And it all comes back to his process philosophy. For Whitehead, learning is becoming. It's a constant evolution, just like everything else in the universe.
It makes you think, how different could our schools be if they followed his lead?
It's an interesting thought experiment. Imagine classrooms that were all about exploration, about letting kids find their own answers.
I'm feeling inspired already. But we can't forget about religion. Whitehead had some strong opinions there too, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, he definitely wasn't afraid to criticize organized religion, especially dogma and resistance to new ideas.
But I read that he still saw religion as important, right? Like an essential part of being human.
He did. He saw it as part of that search for meaning, for purpose. The challenge was reconciling religious experience with his process philosophy.
And that's where his concept of God comes in, right? I've heard it's pretty unique.
That's an understatement. For Whitehead, God isn't this all-powerful being sitting up in heaven judging us. It's something much more integrated.
Okay, now I'm really curious. So if God's not out there, where is it?
For Whitehead, God is part of the universe, part of that creative force driving the process of becoming.
So not a creator separate from creation, but something woven into the very fabric of reality.
Exactly, and that has huge implications for how we understand ourselves, our place in the universe, and even our ethical responsibilities.
We've covered a lot of ground here. From algebra to Einstein to God being part of the universe. It's almost too much for my brain to handle.
It's a lot, but it's all connected. Whitehead was a master at weaving together these seemingly disparate threads into this beautiful, complex tapestry. And that's what makes his work so compelling, so thought-provoking. It challenges us to see the world and ourselves in a whole new light.
Wow, I feel like we've covered so much ground already, from math to physics to education, religion. We even talked about rocks having experiences.
It's quite a journey with Whitehead. He always brings it back to that synoptic vision, though, right? Trying to make sense of it all, not just bits and pieces.
Yeah, and that's what I keep coming back to. It's not just the individual ideas, though they are fascinating. It's how he shows they're all connected, part of this big, messy, constantly changing universe.
And that connection has consequences, especially when we start talking about ethics, which is where things get really interesting. Whitehead wasn't into just abstract principles.
So none of that rules handed down from on high stuff.
Not exactly. He thought ethics comes directly from how reality works, from that process of becoming, each little actual occasion affecting the next one.
So it's not about following a set of rules. It's about understanding that our actions, even tiny ones, ripple outward. They have an impact, whether we realize it or not.
You got it. He even challenged how we think about the self. We're not these fixed, unchanging individuals. We're shaped by experiences, relationships, choices, constantly changing too.
That's a bit trippy though, right? If we're always changing, what about moral responsibility? Can you really hold me accountable for something I did years ago if I'm not that same person anymore?
It's a great question, and one Whitehead wrestled with. He knew the self's fluidity makes responsibility seem sicky. But he argued there's still a continuity to our experience, a thread connecting who we are now to who we were.
So it's not like we're totally different each morning. There's a story to our lives, and we're responsible for the choices we make along the way.
Exactly. And for him, responsibility wasn't about guilt or punishment. It was about understanding that our actions have consequences, both for us and the wider web of existence. It's about recognizing we have the power to contribute to a better world.
That's what makes Whitehead so inspiring. It's not just intellectual, it's about how we live, right? He's saying we're not just watching the universe unfold, we're helping to create it.
That's the power of process philosophy. It's a call to engage, to make choices that matter, to be part of that ongoing becoming.
Well, as we wrap up our deep dive into Alfred North Whitehead, what really stands out to you? What's that big takeaway you'll be thinking about?
Honestly, it's his sheer boldness. He wasn't afraid of the big questions, even if it meant challenging everyone. He pushed boundaries, made people think differently, and that's what makes his work so relevant, even today.
I couldn't have said it better myself. Whitehead's work is tough, yeah, but so rewarding. It leaves you with this sense of awe and a hunger to keep exploring. He challenges us to live more consciously, more intentionally, in tune with the universe. We've only scratched the surface here, but hopefully this deep dive has sparked your curiosity. There's a whole universe of ideas waiting to be discovered in his work. So keep exploring. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.